Feminism is a lot of things to me. It's equality, it's justice, it's solidarity, it's emancipation. I quite like and identify with Lola Ulufemi's formulation that feminist work is justice work, that the two cannot be disconnected from one another, but that they also cannot be extricated from other power dynamics like class and race. In my academic work, I find that I rarely only talk about feminism. I often think of feminism alongside critical and post-colonial theories. So my research has mainly focused on post-colonial and colonial contexts. So I've also thought a lot about the tensions between feminism and other critical theories and what these offer. And I find these tensions to be important for us to not get too comfortable with one iteration or definition of feminism. So I studied political science during my BA, and I wasn't exposed much or really at all, actually, to feminist thought. And it was many years later that I became interested in feminist thought. And it happened as I was thinking about how we should write about war and violence, what sources to include, what voices are on our syllabi, who has authority and who doesn't. And I came across Christine Sylvester's work on experiences of war, which seeks to center the voices of people who are affected by war. And I was struck by how it challenged the ways in which war has conventionally been studied in international relations through a focus on the state, military strategy, etc. And Sylvester argues that it's in the shadows of international relations is where the people dwell. And I think this is starting to change, but the quote stayed with me because it made me wonder about the entire endeavor of international relations. Who is this for? Why are we doing this? So feminism to me is about refusing to stay in the shadows, but insisting on thinking of people, on centering people. The final thing I want to say is that feminism is not just a lens to study things, of course. It also structures my everyday life and my work life. To me, feminism has been a way of doing academia. It's a practice of thinking alongside others. Of course, it's about world politics, it's about the discipline of international relations, but it's also about how we do it. It's about creating these networks and spaces of thinking and collaborating, and then also about our collective responsibility to bring feminist thought and action into spaces where they have typically not belonged, speaking out, right, especially in spaces of power, even if it ruins the good atmosphere, as Sara Ahmed encourages us to do. Feminism is a radical space to me. It's a space of possibility. It refuses to be complicit. It's a reminder that the world exists as it is today because we made it so, and because we continue to uphold certain ideas and beliefs about it, about what's natural, what's normal, what can be changed, what cannot be changed. And of course, we do this every single day. And this is very much the case with the international system more broadly, but also the nuclear world specifically. In keeping with ideas of how the personal is political and how the private and public spheres are not separate spheres, feminist scholars, including those working on nuclear weapons, have reminded me that what we do in academia is not just this objective or scientific project to study the world, but also to actively participate in changing it and to push back against academia's proximity to centers of power. So the nuclear world can seem to be a distant and scary and official thing, one that is beyond our comprehension. But feminist approaches, like other critical approaches, can help demystify the nuclear world. It reminds me that nuclear politics is not only something that is happening in diplomatic summits. Nuclear politics, like international relations more broadly, is this, right? It's us. So Ray Atchison's work on the TPNW is a great example of this, I found. It exposes the inner workings of the nuclear world and provides us with a language for how we can dismantle it. Most work on nuclear politics, I've also found, tends to focus on nuclear armed states, which is understandable. But it overlooks how most people do not necessarily live in nuclear armed states and yet are still vulnerable to and can be harmed by the presence of these nuclear weapons. So through feminist and post-colonial theories, I've been interested in thinking more comprehensively about the nuclear condition and specifically about the people who are seen as kind of lying beyond the scope of nuclear scholarship. So I've done research, for example, on how nationalist intellectuals in Egypt, who are mostly male and bourgeois, reacted to the nuclearization of the world, and how nuclear weapons were represented in spaces of pop culture. And this work allowed me to see that people in the decolonizing world also participated in the production of the nuclear armed world, and that they are not absent from nuclear thinking.